Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out terrible laws the royal family still enforce.
We've discovered millions of pounds in rent secretly flowing from charities into Charles and now William's pocket.
Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're looking at laws we can't believe the royal family still enforce, or laws they enforce but shockingly don't have to follow themselves.
I don't know much about the royal family. I know some people really hate them and some people love them. I'm kind of indifferent. I like to think they're good people and they have good intentions, but whatever blurb they just told me sounds kind of evil. They're charging charities for rent? I mean, charities have to pay rent for their locations, I guess, but I don't know. Whenever you put a human face on a landlord type situation, it gets a little dark. What'd they do? Come on. Let's just see. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're good people, right? Let's go into this thinking they're good people, right?
Charles even earns £300 a year from a pipe adjoining a sewage works that discharges effluent into the dock.
Before we begin,
I'm sorry, what? That discharges what? Effluent into the dock. What's effluent? Is that poop? Is that poop? Liquid waste or sewage discharged into a river or sea. Oh, okay. So King Charles is making £300,000 a year from a pipeline that he owns that is leaking poop.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell
they're
to get
good people.
notified about our latest videos.
They're good people, right?
Freedom of Information Act exemption.
The expenses revelations may have been unwelcome to MPs, but they were the result of a piece of legislation MPs themselves voted for. Oh yes, the Freedom of Information Act.
Far from a terrible law, the Freedom of Information Act has been a boon to the British public and journalists. In 2000, the Act was passed under Tony Blair's administration, though it was controversial at the time.
Imagine this front door, May 97. A new Prime Minister's gone in, promising more open government. A few months later, the man he tasked with that comes up with this.
The implementation of such an act was a manifesto pledge in the 1997 election, but MPs desperately tried, and failed, to make it so that they were exempt from the Act when it was passed.
What I was seeing when I had my cabinet committees was that there was a coordinated, coherent opposition to what I was trying to do.
It was because of this act that the MPs' expenses scandal came to light. But while MPs weren't spared, the royal family were.
George Baskin-Watson, Freedom of Information Bill, has it been a good thing?
It's been an enormous thing. It's had a gigantic effect on the British political scene.
Specifically, the communications of the sovereign, the heir to the throne, and the second in line to the throne can never be released because of an FOI request, while other less senior members can have their communications released if the public interest is deemed sufficient.
Do you feel that you were pushed out of the job because you were being too radical?
I certainly think I made enemies.
This doesn't prevent the king from releasing his correspondence if he chooses, but the king has already caused scandal because of his private letters. As Prince of Wales, he was subject to an FOI request that released what's called the Black Spider Memos, perceived by many to be an attempt to influence government policy, specifically on environmental issues.
Yes, Prince Charles, yes. He writes letters to various government ministers, saying what he would like to happen about certain issues and things.
Equality Act exemption.
It was also...
Whose handwriting is that? Come on. The Freedom of Information Act. In the U.S., we had a similar thing. In the U.S., it was 1966. I feel like it was more, there's something more recent than that, right? In the U.S., I've heard that Freedom of Information Act, it's a great thing, but you have to submit the form with very specific requests of what information you want. If you don't know exactly what it is, you can't get it. You have to specify exactly what you're asking for. You can't just say, can I have every piece of information related to UFOs? You're not going to get it. Can I have every piece of information related to JFK's assassination? No, you can't. You can't do it. It has to be really specific. But apparently, in the 90s, Britain came out with that. The MPs tried to be exempt from it. They couldn't do it. That's great, right? You should know what your leaders are doing, right? This is good. But then the royal family is exempt. Okay. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say, yeah, maybe it's not good that No, yeah, maybe it's good that the royal family is not... No, wait. Okay, yeah, maybe it's good that the royal family is exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. Because... national security? Maybe? I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? I'm trying to come at this like they're good people, and there's a reason for it, right? But I don't think there is.
Equality Act exemption.
It was also a moment of change, a moment of difference and diversity for the royal family, from the guests to the performers to the service.
Another sensible law the royals are bafflingly exempt from is the Equality Act. In 2010, this law came into force to protect people from discrimination. This included the Equal Pay Act, laws about racial and sexual discrimination, and about disability and religious discrimination too.
The talk of the town was the two royals named in this racism row which has been bubbling on for quite a while.
It's to ensure that Brits are all treated equally under the law.
That
However,
sounds good.
The royal family doesn't have to go along with it. People of colour were actually banned from doing certain jobs in the royal household until the 1960s, well into the Queen's reign.
Often with the royals, you know, the Queen's old adage, never complain, never explain. They kind of bury their heads in the sand with this.
We don't know exactly how diverse Buckingham Palace's staff roster is today because it's never been made public, and palace officials say they aren't keeping track.
In a wide-ranging interview on CBS, she also spoke of conversations in the household about how dark their unborn son Archie's skin might be.
But in 2021, when allegations of racism began to fly, there was no way for the Equality and Human Rights Commission to investigate because of the exemptions. It's been suggested many times that the palace ought to abide by the Equality Act, if not by changing the law, then at least by choice. And all that's been said is that the palace is considering doing so.
If the Meghan-Harry tea spilling has revealed anything, it's the obvious racism that exists at the top of the so-called royalist ticket.
Wow. So they're exempt from equal pay. They're exempt from discrimination. I mean, I guess it's not illegal to be racist, but it looks really bad. Right? The optics of this are horrible. If there's no problem, then just make yourself not exempt from being racist. Right? Right? If there's no problem, that tells me there's a big problem. A big problem. A white royal family, the stereotype would be that they are raging racists. We give them the benefit. We like to think that they're not. Right? But they're not being held accountable for it. Maybe they are.
2022, a lot of people suddenly became very interested in the question of inheritance tax.
They are exempt from most of the taxes we all pay, and there are now calls for that to change.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one, isn't it? It's not fair. It's not fair at all. At the same time, giving them the benefit of the doubt, they sort of are the government, right? So to like tax them would be like, no, I can't justify that. That's not cool. That's not fair. Yeah, that's not fair.
How much money did the Queen actually have, and would the King have to pay the inheritance tax on it to the government? The answer was no, because the monarch is exempt from paying any and all taxes, including inheritance tax.
And all taxes.
This was a brilliant time for the monarch to say, I'm going to be open, and I want to be treated as fairly as anybody.
Okay, so hypothetically, let's say King Charles goes to Greg's and he wants to buy a sausage roll. Does he pay the sales tax? I would imagine that he does. They don't recalculate his bill, right? I would imagine that he pays the sales tax and then is reimbursed somehow. I don't know. That's complicated. Pretty messed up.
This isn't the whole story, though, because the King and Prince William do voluntarily pay income tax, though we have no idea how much because it isn't reported.
It is public money. It's taxpayers' money. It's your money. It's my money. It's the viewers' money.
What's the point? If we can't tell how much they're paying, why, what's the point of them saying, oh, we pay it?
If he changed his mind and decided he didn't want to do it anymore, there would be no way to make him. It's also only income from certain sources that is subject to income tax too.
In 2025, they will receive £132 million of public money from the sovereign grant to pay for their official duties and royal residences.
Much of the king's income comes from taxpayers in the first place, though. Tens of millions of pounds each year goes to the royal family via the sovereign grant. Though apparently that still wasn't enough in 2023 because they spent over £20 million more than the grant gave them. They spent a fortune on the coronation and the ongoing renovations of Buckingham Palace.
The King and Prince William also have private sources of wealth, including 2 extensive land estates.
So they're exempt from all taxes. But at some point they said, no, we'll pay income tax. We'll pay income tax. Okay. It could be a shilling. Or whatever it's called, a pence. A halfpenny. It could be next to nothing. It could be nothing, because they won't tell us how much it is. 132 million pounds. Okay. The part in my head that doesn't jive is that they are the government in a way, but they're not. They're people. 132 million pounds? I mean, they're employing a lot of people, so that money's going to their white servants. So that's good. It's getting to the people in that sense. But they spent 20 million more? So then it's weird that their income comes from taxpayers, but then why would they pay tax on? But so then they're like paying themselves. But still, geez, this is making me not like them. I want to like them. I want to think they're great people.
No speed limits.
When you see the pictures of what happened to Prince Philip's car this afternoon, you are left wondering quite how he managed to avoid going to hospital today.
Not only does the sovereign not require an actual driving licence or a passport, but royals also don't have to abide by the speed limits. Not all.
What the how? What? How is this good for society? How is this 10 to 20 people not having to abide to the speed limits helping society? How is it making life better? So they can go joyriding? I don't get it. What?
All the time, anyway.
The Land Rover he was driving was rolled upright and taken away this evening, but it was a crash which eyewitnesses say, perhaps not surprisingly, left the 97-year-old very shocked and shaken.
While out and about on royal duties, their drivers are always police officers, which means that, like any other emergency service vehicle, they're allowed to break the speed limit if it's deemed necessary to do so.
The Duke of Edinburgh, at 97, is still driving himself around the Sandringham estate. We should not be surprised.
This doesn't count if they're just driving themselves around, but it does mean that they can order their drivers to break the speed limit. However, from time to time, royals have been involved in road accidents.
No eyewitness saw yesterday's accident unfold as clearly as Roy Warne. He had no idea one of the drivers was the Queen's husband.
Princess Anne was once hit with a £400 fine for driving 23 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Good.
While Prince Philip ended up in a car accident in 2019. Philip's Land Rover overturned after colliding with a Kia.
Shouldn't be driving at 97. It's not like he has to drive. It's not like he has to get to his work. He was just joyriding.
And after checking the passengers of that car, Roy next went to the Duke of Edinburgh's on its side.
Shockingly, one of the victims, Emma Fairweather, said that the Duke initially refused to apologise. She also broke her wrist and there was a baby in the car.
What? He refused to apologise. What a The driver of the Kia, a 28-year-old woman, suffered cuts to her knee, while the passenger, a 45-year-old woman, sustained a broken wrist. Police can also confirm a 9-month-old baby boy was in the Kia at the time of the incident and was uninjured. Okay, so the Queen decided to stop driving. Did she stop him from driving? He wouldn't even apologize at first. I've always thought of Philip as like a good-hearted, goofy old guy, like endearing in his oldness and goofiness. But not anymore.
Sovereign immunity.
The English Bull Terrier has been given a reprieve after the princess's lawyers argued that a reenactment at Windsor Castle showed the dog was excitable and not aggressive.
The Princess Royal is one of the few royals who has had criminal action taken against her, and not only for that speeding offence.
It was alleged that Princess Anne's dog bit 2 children aged 7 and 12 as they took a walk in Windsor Great Park near the Queen's residence.
In 2002, she was fined £500 after one of her dogs attacked 2 children, with many claiming that it was likely that the dog would have been destroyed had it been owned by an ordinary person. And
that's what I was going to say.
In court, Princess Anne only spoke to confirm her name and plead guilty to a charge of having an uncontrollable dog.
Elsewhere, Prince Andrew completely refused to cooperate with FBI investigations into his associations with Jeffrey Epstein. But if the actual monarch was involved with incidents like these, there would be no way of even trying to bring charges, because they have complete immunity from prosecution.
We were compiling a case against him, but it wasn't until he went through his interview that our client, Virginia, decided that she was going to go after him.
It is legally impossible for the king to break the law. No matter what he does, he simply won't be liable.
We ended up sending Prince Andrew's lawyers a letter offering to talk to them. He ignored it, which was probably one of his biggest mistakes, besides the interview. And then we sued him.
Charges could be brought against the sovereign, however, if they give their permission to be charged, though the government could pass a law to restrict this. It's never really been tested, however, because the sovereigns have traditionally followed the law anyway, despite all those freedoms.
It was reported that he wanted his day in court. It would have been a very silly move, because it would have opened him up to all sorts of questioning.
This one's actually not as surprising. I feel like, in my mind, that's sort of the definition of a king, right? They can't break the law because they are the state. Louis XIV kind of stuff. I'm not as surprised by that. But that doesn't mean it's not messed up.
Freeholds.
Tonight, what Charles and William aren't telling you about their secret millions.
It isn't just via the sovereign grant that the royals get access to public money. The royals own hundreds of thousands of acres of land, with a property portfolio worth billions, much of it freehold.
Their private estates, the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, make Charles and William £50 million a year.
What? Wow. What is freehold? What is that exactly? I don't know what that means. A freehold in common law jurisdictions or Commonwealth countries such as England and Wales, blah, 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 is the common mode of ownership of real property or land, and all immovable structures attached to such land. Okay, so this is land that they own, and they just own it. They're not leasing it. They're leasing it to other people, making money from it. I mean, that's not illegal, right?
And Cornwall make Charles and William £50 million a year.
This means that people up and down the country pay ground rent to the royal family directly because of the UK's archaic leasehold and freehold system, which means that even if you own a house, you may not own the ground it is built on and will still have to pay rent to an aristocratic landowner.
Thousands of documents obtained by dispatches reveal how hard up government departments, schools, and even the NHS are helping to keep the cash rolling in for Charles and William.
The NHS? Yeah, see, they want to eat cake and have it too. Wow. Like, it's one thing if I heard the king owns this land and there's apartment buildings on it, so the people living in those apartments pay rent to the king. Like, that seems logical, right? But when you're talking about the NHS, it's like they're double dipping. They're taking that grant from the government, but then they're also charging the government rent for having a hospital on their land. Yeah, it seems really greedy. It's like they're just sucking money from the people. Now I see why people hate them. They're sucking money out of the government and they're not doing anything. What are they doing? Standing on the balcony waving to people? Come on, what skills do they have? What are they doing?
Lots of the land owned by the royals is occupied by public infrastructure, like hospitals. This means that publicly funded NHS hospitals are paying millions of pounds each year in ground rent, primarily to King Charles and the Prince of Wales.
The Duchy charged the Fire Brigade £612,000 to lease the land.
In 2024, it came out that tenants in the Duchy of Cornwall, homes owned by Prince William now, are living in squalor, with some properties subject to black mould.
See, that's messed up. They're bad landlords. If they were good landlords, that would be one thing. They can afford to be good landlords, and they're choosing not to be.
Many of the buildings are extremely old and in desperate need of renovations that haven't been carried out.
And Charles even made money from Poundbury's deceased, as he charged Dorchester Town Council a one-off payment for the local cemetery.
Let us know in the comments whether you think the royal family should stay or go.
Wait, okay. Poundbury is the town that King Charles built, and he's charging the town for land for the cemetery. Is Poundbury just a money-making scheme?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. for paying your rent every now and then.
How much longer can they make this royal family thing keep going? What's their approval rating like? It's strange because, you know, I feel like people loved Queen Elizabeth. They loved her. September 2022 was a high point. Maybe that was when his mom died. September 22. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So when she died, he became really approved. And his disapproval kind of peaked around his coronation. This goes back to September 2024, and he has 63% approval. That's pretty good. Not far from when his mom died, 70%. March of 2021, it was 49%. What happened then? I think that was some Harry Meghan stuff going on. The racism stuff, probably. Yeah, okay, yeah. Damn, y'all, I wish they were cool. I wish they would answer for these things. I wish they wouldn't make jokes about poor people paying rent to them. I wish they weren't bad landlords. There are a lot more things they could adjust and still stay in power. Let's have some austerity in the royal family, right? Let's fix that sewage pipeline that's leaking into the harbor, right? Let's get rid of that black mold in the apartments. Let's not be racist or sexist. Let's pay taxes. Let's reveal how much taxes they're paying, right? They could easily fix all these bad things. Seems like. Now I see why Daniel Radcliffe doesn't like them. I used to think all British people love the royal family, but I've recently learned that that is not true. People probably think Americans love the president, but we don't all love the president. This is eye-opening. I haven't watched a lot of Mojo videos lately because they're kind of superficial, like they just skate the surface, but this one got kind of deep into some real issues that I didn't know about. What do y'all think of the royal family? Do any of y'all know them? Are they good people? Are they victims of a system that they've been forced into? Harry and Meghan could have turned it around, but they left. Hey, Harry and Meghan, get back up in there. Get back up in there and fix some stuff, right? Or take it down from the inside. Y'all, if you made it this far in the video, be sure to give me a like and subscribe and help me out. Maybe check out my other channel, JJLA Reacts Music, where I react to music, believe it or not, and give me a like and subscribe over there. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.